think when we first started the show, honestly, it was just us trying to figure out how to communicate better with each other. It was really something to help us in our marriage, just to be better at communicating and being able to play it back so we can hear ourselves and watch ourselves, right? And then eventually we wanted to share that with other people because we've had talks with other people and they're like, hey, like your conversations are very, good and, beneficial. So it went from us just wanting to pour into each other to eventually wanting to pour into other people. And then we were like, okay, like we're onto something once we started, making more reels and things like that. So it's like, as we continue to work on our marriage in this thing, it made our impact on other people bigger.
Yeah.
On other people's marriages bigger. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, as we're doing the work on us, it helped us want to help other people do the work on themselves.
Yeah. By basically showing some of the things that are working for us.
Yeah.
And then giving people something to where they can attempt to use it on themselves.
Yeah.
Just showing the things, again, that have served us well.
Exactly.
And if they wanted to try it out or implement it, by all means.
Yeah. And then with us, it wasn't trying to come off as like experts or anything like that. Like, we're experts, sure, on our own marriage. Mm-hmm. We're not experts on everybody else's marriage.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we're going to tell you what we've learned, how we've grown, what we've been through in ours. And hopefully you can figure out your own way from what we've taught you or what we've said here. Mm-hmm. So we got to that point and then we were like, okay, we're still, it's like the more steps we took into trying to help other people, the more our vision expanded. Because it's like, okay, well, now we want to make more content. Now we want to write a book to help people. Now we want to share more of ourselves. So I would say, like, the more we did the work on us, the more expanded our vision got.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I didn't realize when we started doing all of this, and it's like, we're not even big, so to say, yet.
No.
Like, not even a little bit.
Right. Compared to where we want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But like realizing that we've been able to build something to this level, even what it is now, really just focused on our own growth and development and us becoming better. Mm-hmm. And who would have thought that something like this would help people the way that it has?
Yeah.
But what's crazy about that, though, is something that really started as being just for us. When it got to a point to where we were really seeing how much of an impact it was making on people, the expectations that came behind it.
Okay.
Seeing how people started to view us differently and look at us differently and things like that, based off of their own ideas of us, when all we're doing is the same stuff that we had been doing for forever anyway.
Right.
But now we're just actually sharing it with the rest of the world. And so it's crazy because it's like now, not to say that it's everybody, but there's people, who look at us as being experts. There's people who look at us as like, oh, well, you should want to hear from people and get feedback and have these types of opinions or all of these particular types of things or whatever, which is fine. But the fact that it came from a space to where it was really just about us, and it still is about us. But seeing now that when you put yourself out there to this degree, to this level, so much more comes along with it that you don't see coming, be it from people online to in our real lives, whatever the case may be. Yeah. And then just seeing that how much our vision has expanded and all of the other pressures now that come with that when it comes to us performing or showing up a certain type of way, responding to people a certain type of way, all of these different things that really didn't have anything to do with anything in the inception of this idea, like coming to life.
Yeah.
And like now we're really trying to figure out like how to navigate all of that stuff by also being true to what our vision is, even though it has expanded. And so,
I think like something I didn't expect the entitlement of people when it comes to us like making content online. Like, I didn't expect people to feel like, oh, well, y'all should be doing stuff this way, or why don't y'all tell us about this part, or why don't you do it this way? And it's like, we doing this as a service to other people. Like, we're doing this to be helpful to other people.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that you would like online, either you do it or you find somebody else that's doing it.
Right.
Because we're doing this out of the kindness of our own heart, out of our own vision that we've created with each other.
Yeah.
We're not doing this to appease or please anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing this for likes. We're doing this for the mission that we got set between us that no one else knows. Right. It ain't got nothing to do with other people. Yes, we want it to be helpful. Yes, we want to serve people, but it's bigger than anybody liking something or trying to tailor our message for certain people to like. It ain't got nothing to do with that.
Right.
It has everything to do with what we have said, what we value, our shared vision. And that's it.
And I think it's because we've gotten to a day and age now where there is so much entitlement online. And it's hard for people to wrap their minds around the fact that, like, we only talk about the stuff we want to talk about.
Exactly.
Like, people can ask questions and have suggestions and all that other stuff, which is great. But realizing that at the end of the day, the only thing that we feel compelled to do is what we feel compelled to do. Because I don't think I think because people think that because we talk about marriage and relationships and stuff like that, that means that we talk about all things related to marriage or all things related to relationships and stuff like, but that's not what we're here to do.
Right.
Like,
I keep hitting this microphone.
You're fine, babe. But that's not what we care to do.
Right.
Like, we talk about the things that we're growing through, the things that we're learning, that we're seeing, the things that matter to us based off of what we want to share and put out and put a focus on. And that might not look like what everybody else has going on. But guess what? Our marriage also ain't what everybody else got going on and don't look like what everybody else got going on.
Right.
And that's why our focus is the way that it is. Like, we talk about the stuff that matters to us. And if you should get value from that, that is great. But we're not about to change our message or our vision or nothing like that to cater to somebody else. When a lot of the time, man, people just want more information to do nothing with it. And so it's crazy, but, it's one of those things that came with the territory anyway. And we knew that. Yeah. People gonna people regardless.
Yeah.
But staying true to what it is that we have and what we're moving toward together is so important. And I think that it's dope that we get to go through this process of navigating this, with our platform and building our business together and still having to go against the odds, which is the same way it started in our marriage.
Yes.
Going against the odds, not looking like everybody else, not doing all of the other stuff that everybody else is doing, and just staying true to what we know is true within us and within our marriage and within what we want to be able to share. Yes. And letting the right people find us.
Listen, when you stand on what you stand on, you can't be swayed by anybody.
Nah.
You can't be swayed by the likes, the views, the people who come in our DMs and say, "Hey, will y'all do this?" No, we ain't sellouts. We're staying true to what we said we want to do. And that's it. If you don't like that, go somewhere else.
Pretty much. And it's like I'm so glad that we've had the opportunity to grow even more clear in what's important to us and being comfortable with it not looking like everybody else's stuff. But we always used to talk about a lot of the times, about like, what is it? Parallels.
Okay. Yeah.
So parallels meaning that there's so many different things that apply in one area that apply in so many other areas. So the way that we do our show, the way that we do the podcast is the same way that we operate when it comes to our marriage and our fitness goals and everything that we do individually. It's like we set the intention within ourselves first. We come together, talk about it, what we want that thing to look like, and then we go out and do it based off of our needs, our desires, what we want to be able to do, the impact we want to make, whatever the case may be. And we do that. We don't do it for nobody else. We do it and then let the right people come into our lives as they do. But it ain't to fulfill nobody else outside of us.
I think you made a really good point. You said we start with us and then we put out what we want. Instead, I think a lot of people, they go on the internet and they're looking for something to
latch on to,
convince them, persuade them. And but it's like, no, we work on ourselves first and then we put out our information.
Yeah.
You know, we're not lost and looking for any and everything that's going to pull at what we want. Like, no, like we're working on ourselves constantly and diligently while putting out this information because we want it to serve people.
And that's why we spend so much time talking about like our own real life experiences.
Yes.
Like we don't do a whole lot of hypotheticals.
Right.
We're so intentional about when we share something, we always try to relate it back to things that we've lived through and how we've been able to learn certain things and make it beneficial in our lives. Yeah. Yes, there might be negatives in there or things that can be seen that way, but we took a situation and we turned it into a positive to where we were able to grow from it based off of what we want out of life. Yeah. We can't cater that to everybody. And that ain't even our job or our mission. Right. It's how can we take whatever life experience we've had, find a positive in it, and use that to better serve us as we're growing through our marriage and as we're growing through life.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't understand it. It's like, yeah, well, you don't understand that other people are going through. I don't have anything to do with that. And what I'm getting at, or what we're getting at, is the fact that you have to be able to take whatever life has given you and find a way to still make it work for you. Because at the end of the day, life is going to continue to move on. Yeah. And you can either let that stuff hold you back, break you down, tear you apart, or whatever, or you can find a different way to look at it to where it can serve you and your marriage and whatever it is that you want to accomplish or whoever it is that you want to become. But that's a choice.
Yes.
You have to choose to not be a victim of your circumstances. Like, we done all been through stuff.
Right.
Everybody goes through stuff. And that's not to say that one person's stuff is bad or worse than anybody else, but you get to choose how you look at that stuff. And that's the same way that we operate in our marriage, in the show, in the things that we do. We look at it and we look at the hand that we've been dealt and we be like, all right, you know what? This is what we got. We can either let it defeat us or we can find a way to make it useful. Right. We choose to find a way to make it useful. Right. Regardless of how ugly it might be. How can we look from the inside out, turn this into a positive and allow it to be able to serve us? Right. Because crying about it ain't going to do nothing for nobody. And so that's why we're able to take a unique approach to our marriage, to our challenges and the difficulties that we face, whatever the case may be, and find a way to make those things serve us rather than take away from us. And I think that's just unique, or it's not common for a lot of people to look at things that way. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's, people are, I think interacting with people online is always so interesting because it's like, something I'm having to learn is nothing is personal. Like when it comes to how people like react online, it's like when people are commenting on your stuff, they're thinking about themselves. Like regardless, they're not, for example, like the post where I was talking about how you let me express my extreme emotion. To someone else, extreme emotions may be hitting, punching, abuse, and stuff like that. To you and us, my extreme emotions is like me getting super frustrated. I'm like, I don't know how to say something. And like, but to somebody else, extreme emotions look totally different. So when they see a post of me saying extreme emotions, they're not thinking about how my extreme emotions are. They're thinking about how they experience extreme emotions. It ain't got nothing to do with me. But to them, when I said that, it's a trigger. And now oh, this is toxic information that you're giving out. Because they're thinking about their experience with what extreme emotions look like to them, not what's actually happening with us.
Right.
Does it make sense?
Because what people,
really hope
no, you said it perfectly, baby.
Okay.
You gotta stop doing that to yourself.
I know.
You really do.
It's a bad habit.
But anyway, but to your point though, people can internalize it so bad and then respond rather than just asking a follow-up question.
Exactly.
Like when you say extreme emotion, what does that look like for you? When you say that, you know, I get angry and I yell or whatever, like how do you end up communicating your words when a moment like that comes about? So it's like, rather than making the assumption, because of course all people are going to be able to do is look at their own experiences of somebody they know, whatever, and then go from there, rather than let me get more of an understanding of what this person is actually talking about before I start to create my own opinion.
Yeah.
But that in and of itself is a skill. And it's a skill that so many people either don't have or have no desire to be able to build up. They would rather just jump out there and say something rather than let me actually get a real good understanding of this thing before I start to spit out whatever comes out of my mind.
And which brings me to like, that's why our content is so triggering for some people, because the way we talk about things is in such a positive, uplifting, like, okay, life might be hard, but marriage ain't kind of way. And to them, it's like, no, it's supposed to be hard, or no, this hasn't been my experience, or no, this is abuse. And I'm like, huh? You know what I'm saying? So it's like the fact that people can't even separate the fact that we've all had different experiences. And that's okay.
That's how life is.
It is. It is. And we're only talking about it from our point of view, from our perspective, and it doesn't look like everybody else's. And that's okay.
And that can be so difficult for so many people, which is why we have to be so mindful of like our own vision and the way that we decide we want to be able to serve and the impact we want to make and all of those things, because it won't make sense to everybody else. But it's not it's not our responsibility to make it make sense. People will see it as it unfolds. And that's really just it. Yeah. And as long as we're happy and we're fulfilled with whatever it is that we're going after and the purpose that we're fulfilling, like we good on that.
Right.
And the thing that really just gets me when it comes to people is the fact that people can be so sold on their beliefs.
Okay.
And they can be so sold on their ideas of thinking that things are supposed to be a certain way, especially when it's not beneficial to them, especially when it's destructive or they've seen it happen somewhere else or it's happened in their own life. It's like, bro, there's 1,001 different ways things could turn out.
Right.
Like, you don't actually have to think and believe that this is the standard or that it has to be that way. Right. Like, just because it happened to you one particular type of way doesn't mean that it'll always be that way. There's so many different things that people don't take into consideration. It's like, even when we were talking about how people can mix and manipulate our words and different things like that by lacking to ask clarifying questions, it just it's mind blowing how little effort people would put into their own thoughts and opinions and all of this crap, right? And so it's like, man, we done said a lot of stuff, man, people don't agree with. But it's like the only reason it comes across as being so polarizing is because it's so different. But it's based off of the things that we've lived through, and it's the lessons that we've learned while going through those particular things and realizing that you won't always get it.
Right.
And it's okay.
Right.
Like, in the way that I would like to think that we share our stuff, we always start from the inside out. And so it's like when a lot of people got kind of, not a lot, a good handful, got worked up, in a post where I was really going off. I'm like, man, like, fuck your excuses, all of that stuff. I'm popping off.
Yeah.
I think that bothered people so bad because all they could do is internalize their own crap and their own traumas and the stuff that they're going through, the stuff that they're going through. when I was going off and I was saying all of that stuff, the reason I was able to say, forget your excuses and all of that stuff is because all of that is things that I had to tell myself.
Right.
All of the stuff that I was talking about was things that I had to do for me. That worked for me. Mm-hmm. I know it sounded like I was talking at people. I get that. Mm-hmm. I understand what it did. But I also know that if I had somebody in my life to have told me that, it probably would have made a world of difference. Mm-hmm. But I had to grow through that. Mm-hmm. I ain't have no, father figures or big brothers or anybody like that was talking to me like that. But it's what I eventually had to tell myself. Mm. So you might hear us saying certain things or whatever, but a lot of the time it's coming from a place to where we had to learn how to navigate that for ourselves. Absolutely. Which is why when we share certain things, like I get it, you can't relate to everything. Mm.
You're not supposed to.
You shouldn't be able to relate to everything. Right. But can you find the helpful nuggets somewhere in the story?
Right.
And I'm not telling people, like that you need to go out here and do everything like we doing and all of this other stuff. Like, that's not the case. Mm-hmm. The thing is, can you take this clip? Can you take this conversation? Can you take something from this and figure out a way to make it useful in your own life?
Yes.
Critical thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and I know it's a skill.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that so many people fail to use. Like, it doesn't always have to be so. You don't have to be so susceptible to your negative bias. And I know that it's crap, it's human nature.
Yeah.
But you don't have to give into it. Mm. You can be like, before I pop off here, before I really just respond, because the intro, the words that I heard first ruffled my feathers. So can I wait a second, think on it, and then ask a question? Maybe two questions, and then decide on if I'm finna really like lose it here.
Or maybe
just scroll on by.
Or maybe I should watch the full video, read the caption to get more context for the video. Do that first. Then think about my thoughts about what I just saw and what I just read. Then come up with a comment or
clarifying question.
If I have one.
Further,
if I have one. If it wasn't already answered in the video and the caption, and maybe even in the comments. That's a start. Let's start there. And then you can go into asking questions and commenting and all this. Exactly. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just don't feel like it's like that difficult when like the purpose of our content, like, it is to be helpful. It's not to talk down to anyone. We want to help you, like, however we can. So it's insane sometimes. It's just insane sometimes.
And man, the thing, people be out here actually commenting, communicating like this or worse in their real life. Mm-hmm. And like don't even realize it.
Right.
And I think that's what really kind of gets me, is because a lot of people think that their actions and their behaviors are isolated. Mm. They think that their actions and behaviors are so isolated because you do a certain thing online.
Right.
Only. No, you don't.
Right.
You just aren't aware of it, that you do that same type of stuff in real life. Mm-hmm. You may not be as aware that you're just as critical or impulsive or judgmental or whatever the case may be in real life as you are online. Mm. You don't just have those types of behaviors in a vacuum. No, they show up way more places than you realize. But you also may or may not have anybody in your life to actually be able to expose that or open up and share that stuff with you to where you could be aware of it.
Yeah.
And that really be the thing that kind of gets me, is because there's so much more to just putting stuff out there. Mm-hmm. You really are showing parts of yourself.
Right.
And the ways that you think and process information and all of that. Even if you have a really like disgust for something that we say and you go on like a whole rant or whatever, like about how you don't agree with something. And then especially if you didn't even take the time to get the full story of it, you're showing how easily swayed you are by someone having an opposing belief.
Right.
When you didn't even try to pursue understanding before you made all of that bull crap come about.
And then assuming that just because you disagree with somebody, you got to argue with them.
Exactly. Like, and it's okay for people to have opposing beliefs.
Right.
You know, especially if you're not going to say something in a constructive way to where you can at least invite in a conversation about it to be able to see different sides of it.
And then to disagree with somebody, even though that person is saying this is what works for them.
Mm-hmm. How are you going to be mad at that? How you
mad at somebody for something that works for them just because it didn't work for you?
And that's exactly why others be mad. They be like, well, that don't work for everybody.
You probably ain't do it right.
Okay. Like, I wasn't really trying to make it work for everybody.
We're just talking about what we did. Like,
yeah, if it works for you, great. And if not,
find another way.
Yeah, find something else.
Insane.
It is, man.
It's insane. But it doesn't, listen, it's insane, but it does not stop me from wanting to do what we do. Mm-hmm. Like, it only more so fuels the fire here.
Right.
It makes me want to make more content. It makes me want to just put us out there more so we can just serve the best way we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's dope because all of this really does kind of make us have to get better in so many different ways. Because learning to build up this layer, like this degree of like thick skin and resilience, consistency, discipline, and showing up and being able to produce the show
self-control
week after week, self-control, watching how we, respond and people deal with. There's so many micro skills that we get to develop and work on over time, even away from the camera when we're just interacting or talking with people or navigating real world relationships. Like, there's so much growth that comes from what we get to do here that also works perfectly in alignment with our overall vision and who we're working to become. And so, like, people might look at it like, oh, they just got a show or a podcast and they just put out these clips and blah, 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 whatever. But you don't even realize that these are just small practices that we're getting for a journey that we've decided to go on, that we're already thinking 3, 5, 10 years down the road. And all you're really doing right now is getting to see us practice. Like, this real life ain't our final form.
Right.
All this is just us practicing out loud and being able to like work through our thoughts and be able to reflect on the things that we've gone through and what we're growing through. And like, that is a bold way to do something. Like, a bold way to go about your own growth and becoming who it is that we decided to be.
Thanks.
So the vision is still the vision. The goal is still the goal. And I love the fact that we get to have an environment that we get to practice in public. And we get to be able to show up and serve and do different things that we find meaningful in public also. Yeah. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And this ain't the type of work for everybody, but I'm loving it, man. Like, I'm loving who we get to become in this process.
Me too, baby.
Even with all the bull crap.
Yeah. It only makes us better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it continues to hold me accountable to myself, but it also reminds me very, very well how fortunate I am to have the type of marriage that we have.
That's true.
I get a constant reminder that, boss, what we got is not common. Like, be grateful for that.
Yes.
It is not something that comes easily, that everybody can do. And it just gives me a whole nother level of gratitude for it.
Me too.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Super grateful for that.
Absolutely, baby.
Any closing thoughts, my love?
No, this was a good conversation.
I love you.
I love you.
And I look forward to growing through this even more and just figuring out, seeing who we become, another year, 2 years down the line, because we coming up on our first full year consistency.
Yes.
Like dropping, like not missing a week. This is dope, man.
I'm proud of us,
Like,
honestly.
and you know, the goal was only to do that for like 90 days.
I know.
And then we didn't realize it until we was already like 7-8 months in. We're like, oh,
like,
crap.
just keep going.
Yeah. It's like, it got to a point to where something we started being consistent in and we only planned on being consistent for a small period of time became a natural part of us.
Yep.
So like now to not do it is weird. That's dope. But that is becoming.
Yes.
When you start putting in the work and you start doing the actions regularly, you don't think about it as much because it becomes a natural part of you. It becomes a natural part of you being a wife or me being a husband or it's operating the way that we do.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know what in the world I just said.
But
anyway.
That's all good.
But yeah. Again, we get to see that stuff in action.
Yes.
It's
and
dope
I love
as hell.
that for us.
It's dope as hell.
It is.
But anywho, hope you guys were able to get something out of this brief conversation of ours. I know I've enjoyed it with you. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it also. But until next time, family, my name is John Trone. This is my beautiful queen.
Adoria.
We are one dope couple. And until next time, family, peace and love.